Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Since many of us are at home, I have seen a lot of people wanting to try out bullet journaling, so I thought it would be helpful to make a series to help you guys on your journey. This first video will be fairly general just to start off, so if you are looking for more secondary steps to help jazz up your bullet journal, stay tuned and I will be sure to elaborate more in future videos. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. So without further ado, let's get to it. Starting off with the materials, I get a lot of questions about the stuff that I use and what you actually need for bullet journaling. I think that there are 3 things that are considered my essentials. All you really need is a notebook, pens, and highlighters. Honestly, you don't really need a highlighter, so maybe it's just 2 essential items. Continuing. Typically, dotted notebooks are the best for bullet journaling, but I have seen lined notebooks work just as well. As for pens, many of us probably own one already, but I have seen gel pens or felt tip pens being used a lot. However, this is not to say that ballpoint pens or any other pens aren't used. I have actually used a ballpoint pen for a couple of my spreads, so it's really up to you. For highlighters, it's another stationary item that most people have already, but another great alternative would be markers, just because they do have a wider range of colors. So the key here is not to dwell on the fact that you don't have the most fancy stationary items. You can gradually expand your collection. However, this shouldn't be your top priority because you can achieve some amazing results with just a pen and a notebook. So let me know if you guys would like a video on what I currently use and some affordable alternatives for stationery that I like. But to continue, here are some other items that you might want but don't necessarily need. Stickers, washi tape, and brush pens. Also, I will leave all the names of the stationery I showed here in the description if you are interested. Moving on to putting content in your journal. Here I will touch on some effective layouts and how I come up with some of them. So the first thing I have to say is make sure that you are making spreads that you are going to use. Others might be making their spreads that work for them, but it is ultimately up to you to decide whether or not you will need it. The only way of figuring that out is to try it out, but if you have done it a couple of times and find that there is no sort of purpose for it being there, I would suggest leaving it out the next time. Here are some of my spreads that I like to include when I am setting up for a new bullet journal. So the first one that I am showing you is my pen swatches rain dump spread. I don't have a name for this one and I don't release this one online because clearly it's not the prettiest thing to look at, but it is effective with helping me decide on whether or not the color that I am using is suitable for the paper in my journal, and it is great for helping me decide on certain color palettes. It is usually at the back of my journal so I could access it easily without having to go look for another scrap piece of paper to test my colors with. And because it is a page in my bullet journal, I know that the color will be the same on my actual spreads. This spread is usually the first thing I like to do to get rid of the feeling of needing to be perfect. I go straight to the back with a certain color and just try it out, and I find it to be effective for helping me get rid of that bit of worry that I need to be perfect when starting out my bullet journal. Another idea for spreads in your bullet journal is writing about your hobbies. So of course you can write in some things or track some of your hobbies. One of mine is reading, so I have a book tracker starting here as an example, but there are many other things you can write about. Your experiences, the time you spend doing hobbies, and much more. Moving on to, of course, weekly spreads. This one is commonly used within the community just because we all have daily tasks to complete, so this is a great way to keep track of that. There are many layouts available and you can check out some of mine on my Instagram for inspiration. For people who are starting, this is a great way to ease your way into getting comfortable with bullet journaling. Remember that it doesn't hurt to take inspo from other creators on the platform, just as long as you give credit, of course. For those who are trying out my spreads, make sure you tag me so I can see them because I would love to see your creations. So as a continuation with weekly spreads, there are monthly spreads, and these ones are a good way to track any long-term deadlines, and if you are a student, I would definitely recommend this one. Again, there are lots of formats to use. So moving on to when you are designing your own spreads. When it comes to actually coming up with layouts, again, I use that brain dump sheet or an extra sheet of paper and just experiment. Some of these ideas come in spontaneously, so I think the most important thing, again, is to try to experiment. Typically, my layouts are sorted vertically, either with columns or horizontally with rows. The different sections of the layout is totally up to you. I mix and match them up all the time, and here are some of the things that you might want to include. That is all for the content in your bullet journal. Keep in mind that the things that I listed aren't the only things that you can put in your bullet journal, but they are some that I make on a frequent basis. Finally, the last topic that I will cover for this video is colors. Figuring out color palettes is something I also struggle from time to time. As mentioned before, it is always great to use a pen swatch to test out colors. I usually like to either lay them out line by line or by dots just to see if certain colors look good together. Ultimately, I find that you can never go wrong with pastel colors and monochromatic colors. Colors right beside the color wheel is also a good option, like blue and green or orange, yellow, and red. And that is all for part 1. Thank you for those who stuck by. This was a long one to film. Tune in for the next one where I will cover topics such as calligraphy, practicing handwriting, and more. Be sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications to know when I upload my next video. Best of luck to you out there with your bullet journal journey, and I will see you all very soon. Bye bye!